Wicked cool. Feature alert.
Hey there, podcast fans. Thanks for listening. Now, you can also reach out and send me a text message. On every episode, at the top of the show notes, you'll see a link that says, send us a text message. Simply click it, write something super nice and sweet, and away we go. Also remember to please subscribe, share this podcast with a friend by telling them about it, and leave us a positive review, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, your favorite podcast streaming service, or even on our website at www.afraidofnothingpodcast.com.
Whew. I mean, typically I like my guests, but tonight was really fun. I enjoyed her immensely. We had a great conversation. Amy Robeson works with the magic of crystalline energy. Some people even call her the Crystal Queen, the Akashic Records, and other powerful spiritual systems and modalities. Amy's ability to heal others and to channel higher wisdom has grown more intense and more powerful than she could ever have imagined. She's embraced her gifts and is owning her power as a gifted empath, super intuitive, healer, and spiritual coach, and in helping others. She is the host of a popular podcast called Awakening with Amy, and her website is theamyrobeson.com, where you can check out a lot of the programs and goodies that she has. She, too, can help you enter the Akashic Records and find out and get guidance for your life, just like she did with me on this episode. That website, again, is theamyrobeson.com. TheAmyRobeson.com.
In a world where nothing is known, nothing is certain, reality is not real. Wake up! Be afraid of nothing. I'm Bob Heskey.
Robert.
The host with the ghost.
This is my podcast, based on my paranormal documentary, Afraid of Nothing. Each episode, we talk to people who see life and the afterlife through a different lens. Join me.
Who is this large man? And what's he doing in our bedroom?
As we lift the veil and open our minds to see beyond our eyes lie. This is Afraid of Nothing.
I am here with a very special guest tonight, a positive guest who has many capabilities. She's a healer, which is really good because I've been suffering from a cold for a week after getting back from a business trip. Her name is Amy Robeson. And Amy, if I butchered your name, which I did twice before I hit record, please correct me. But very excited to have you on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me. And you said it perfectly.
Oh, perfect. Third time's a charm. So much to talk about with you. You have many skills. We'll get into as many as we can. But I think I wanted to start first with you, like myself, are a podcaster. So I'd love you to share the high notes about your podcast, Awakening with Amy, and what are the themes and guests that you have on the show.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, the podcast, I was actually intuitively guided to start the podcast a really long time ago. And I made like 3 episodes and I stopped because I got some bad advice. So I'm like, you know what? I just need to do this because I have a lot to share and it's such a great way to connect. And so I talk about all things from mindset to spirituality, the awakening process, to health, mind, body, soul. And I have guests on like maybe once a month. We do soul chats on there for that, but it's everything from Akashic Records to intuition to just mental health.
You know, mental health is kind of a good starting point because you, like so many people today in this environment we're in today, feel like they're stuck. I mean, it's probably like 10 or 15 years ago for you, but a lot of us feel stuck in a situation because we have financial obligations, we can't leave a job because we're dependent on it, we have kids going to college or things like that, or it's just a tough economy. You were facing a situation like that like 10 or 15 years ago, and you made kind of a brave move. And as a result of that, you found out more about yourself than you probably ever thought you would. So, do you mind taking us down that path and how you evolved to who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a very good career before, and I was super scared to leave. I know that when I started the career, I was like, I'm going to be here for 3 years, and 3 years turned out to be 10 years. And because I was making such good money, I was scared to leave my financial security. And anybody I talked to would go, you're crazy for leaving this. This is a great opportunity. And I just knew in my heart that I was supposed to be doing something more. I knew I was supposed to be helping people. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be talking about spirituality or teaching the Akashic Records or speaking light language or doing anything of the sort. But what I ended up doing was I just followed the energy that presented itself to me. And then I took a huge leap of faith and made a game plan. And so I remember when I first moved to Charleston to be with my now husband, I was like super excited because I just went back to school. I graduated. I had like dreams of like selling medical equipment and things like that, and just didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. My first teacher was like, just do what you're supposed to do and study a lot. And I didn't understand at the time. I thought maybe she meant like go back to school. And I'm like, I just finished going back to school. I don't need to go back to school, And so what I ended up doing is just studying like anything that I found interesting. A lot of it had to do with like spiritual modalities and spiritual practices and things like that. So I went back into my career. I thought maybe I'd do it for 2 years. That didn't happen. It lasted way longer than that. And like eventually I just had to give myself a timeline because I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing it and I didn't want to do it past 10 years. And I'm like, I'm going to give myself 1 year to make an exit, do everything I'm supposed to do. And come June, like I said in the beginning of the year, come June, I wasn't anywhere close to that. And so I was like, I need to hire someone. I need someone to help me. And that was one of the best decisions I made because that same day, I started coaching with her. My boyfriend, my now husband, proposed. And so it was like this big,
Wow.
switching of identity that was about to happen.
Yeah, that's good. That's amazing. And you have a daughter now, or because you just awesome. Congratulations. Does your child have some skills that you know of, or is it too early to tell?
All kids are connected, and like I'll talk to her about things, but it's really important for me not to plant seeds around intuition or anything like that, because I want her intuition to be the way that she uses it. And I can tell that she sees spirits, and like I've talked to her about because I had a really rough pregnancy and I had to have emergency surgery at 20 weeks and she didn't come then. I ended up having to have a scheduled C-section at 37 weeks, but like I would have to convince her soul that she had to stay in. And it's funny because like one day she was talking to me and she goes, Mommy, I would just remember you always saying that I had to stay in, and I would go, let me out of here. And it's just so funny because I've never told her that story.
And the reason I asked that is I have two daughters.
Mm-hmm.
They're older now. I'm an older person. And so they have, one's 18 going on 19. The other one is 16 going on 17. The youngest is autistic, and there's been some things we have discovered with her. There's like one video I have on YouTube. She was like a toddler. It's the ghost in Emily's crib. And we would see these weird things bouncing or dancing over her. And we would check the baby monitor. We'd check to make sure there weren't cobwebs, or we'd change the location of it.
Yeah.
It would happen night and day. And finally, one day I was alone with her, and I was in another room and I was watching it, and I videotaped it. I saw this thing kind of traipsing around her. And then it left when she woke up. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of kind of theories about that. But she is autistic, and she One of my guests, who is no longer with us, and he was in the film I made, he was a shaman. And he started off working with autistic children because he thought they were humans 2.0.
Mhm.
He had some strange, weird experiences with her. And just to tell you really quickly, one was, she had pneumonia or something, and my ex-wife said, "Hey, do you mind doing a remote healing?" He said, "Do I have permission? She's young."
Yeah.
And when he did the healing, when he goes to see her, and then he goes to like this tree, he goes down, he picks up his spirit animal, comes back up at a rock. She was there waiting at the rock
Mhm.
for him. And he was like, that never happened to him in his hundreds to thousands of times he's done this. And she just had sensed his energy, and she met him there, and she was curious. Fast forward, earlier in 2024, he passed, and she had went to look at, my older daughter was looking at colleges with my ex-wife, and she sent me a note saying, "Hey, Dad, by the way," a text. She said, "I saw Brad recently." And I'm like, "What? How did you see him?" He said, I said, "Did you?" And she said something like, he says hello. He says he misses us, and that he's doing just fine.
Love it.
And I said, "Was he younger? Was he older?" She said, No, he was his younger self." And then I said, "How did you recognize him if it was his younger self?" And she almost laughed. She said, "Dad, I recognize his energy." So I just paused there, but that's kind of why I had the younger daughter that's had these experiences with energy and stuff. And I share it once in a while, but I just blows me away because I'm kind of a tunnel vision guy. So I'm just curious if you've run across that with any of your clients or anybody else about their children having that
Yeah.
type of amazing ability.
So I love that. First off, I love that you have created such a safe space for her to share stuff like that openly with you. The coolest thing is because most kids, they are awake when they are born, and we want to encourage them to stay awake because we all have gifts and abilities since we were born and before that. And so it sounds like she's super uber duper connected, and that's something that it comes very naturally and easy for her. And I think that's really neat. I have seen kids like my daughter, like I know when she can see like her great grandparents when they've already transitioned, but like I can tell when they're in the room and like when she notices their energies, because she would be staring off and laughing and giggling when she was a baby.
Mm,
And so it's like
yeah.
those things that with autistic kids, they are closer to the veil. Like they experience reality very differently than someone that's not completely on the spectrum like that. And then, there's ranges of the spectrum. So I think what is it? Like 1 in 5 kids now are autistic or something like that?
Yeah, it's insane. Yep. Used to be 1 in 50 or
Mhm.
1 in 100. But yeah. And I don't know if it's more boys than girls.
The problem with the girls is they only tested boys for so long. And so there wasn't enough data to diagnose girls. And I think girls are getting more diagnosed now than before. And so
Yeah.
it's nice that that your daughter was diagnosed so that they could, you guys could get help with that.
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you, it was scary when it happened. It's always that disappointing thing, right? Or when oh God, she's got autism, and then my ex-wife was fearful we were losing her because she was kind of going inward,
Mhm.
and so there was a new diet and all this different things that we did. But I will tell you this one thing: she is. All of us as humans have, we doubt ourselves, we lack confidence or whatever. She is so happy with who she is,
Yes.
and she gets over things quickly. She has the best perspective on everything that I'm jealous about because it's just, I mean, she's just so comfortable as who she is, and even if she's different, she's not shy about getting involved in things, trying out for plays and stuff. So I found that about her. At first, I was like, "Oh, too bad she's got autism," and you worry because how are they going to survive? Are they going to be able to handle stuff by themselves? But in terms of self-love and being confident and accepting who she is and embracing it, she's way ahead of most kids. So I think that's something amazing, and I found myself being a little jealous of that at times.
Yeah, I think that's the neat thing about that is they're on a different vibrational frequency. And my nephew's autistic and he's one of the biggest lovers. He is the kindest, most beautiful soul, and he's the biggest lover. I have 5 nieces and nephews from my sister, and he's just on the next level of deep understanding and compassion. It's it's hard to articulate sometimes when you do meet kids like that, because it's like, it's not something I think we were familiar with just even growing up, because it wasn't very common.
No, it's but it was, yeah, it's been I have two different children. They both daughters get along super well, and just super tight, and it's just been kind of an interesting experience, and it's made me be a better person, I think, hopefully in the long run. So yeah, what I also find interesting is the Akashic Records. So I would love for you to educate our audience on what the Akashic Records are and how they helped you in your journey, and how you also use them to help your clients as well.
Yeah. So the Akashic Records is a field of infinite possibilities. Everybody has an Akashic record. Every soul has an Akashic record. Everything has an Akashic record. And what it is it's like an autobiography of your soul's experiences, what has ever happened and what will happen. It is not fortune telling. It starts from the moment your soul is incepted, meaning once your soul comes into essence, into its frequency, from creation, God, universe, whatever sacred title you give that frequency, it starts recording information in the Akashic Records. And we can go into the Akashic Records and ask for support in any and all areas of our life. And the guardians of the records, also known as the masters, teachers, and loved ones, will share love and guidance and support from a place of non-judgment. They'll offer you guidance based on that exact moment in time. And so it's an amazing life tool that supports you in having a self-discovery and finding out different perspectives on any given situation.
So some people believe in good and evil, and in the afterlife. Some people, I've had guests that are it's like, no, there's nothing but love, pure love, and others say there's both, just like there is here on Earth. On the Akashic Records, is that just pure good? There's no evil. There's no evil Akashic Records librarian we need to watch out for. They're all trustworthy, pretty much, the ones that you reach out and connect to.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important that you're not connecting to false Akashic Records, that you're connecting to authentic Akashic Records.
Okay.
And it's really important that you understand and have discernment. The masters, teachers, and loved ones that are also known as the guardians of the records want to support us, want to assist us in evolving. Now, can there be a false light being pretending to be an Akashic Record master teacher and loved one if someone's accessing the false records? Yes, but if you're accessing the authentic Akashic Records, your authentic Akashic Records, you're only going to connect with your authentic guardians of your Akashic Records. And that's why it's really important to be trained by someone. Because if you're not trained by someone, and you are not able to ask them questions, you could be playing with fire and you don't even know it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is an Afraid of Nothing paranormal podcast alert.
$10 merch. $10 merch.
That's right, podcast fans. If you go to our website, afraidofnothingpodcast.com, and click on the store tab, you too can find now $10 merch on the website. So not only can you get the great stuff like the hoodies and the t-shirts and the blankets and the glasses, you can also get stickers and bumper stickers and, well, a whole lot more. You need to see it yourself. But just remember this.
$10 merch
is now available at the Afraid of Nothing podcast store. Check it out. And remember, never be afraid to look good. Now, Akashic Records, your soul, it seems to imply that we've lived many lives. Is that, this is actually a two-part question. One, do you believe in reincarnation, that we've lived more than one life? And the other, do you believe that we live multiple lives going on at the same time, like quantum physics kind of talks about alternate realities, other versions of ourselves making different decisions? I'm just curious what you thought.
Yeah, yes and yes. So,
oh, wow. Okay, yes and yes. Okay, great. Wow.
Yeah. So first off, everything's happening simultaneously. And we could have had 100 lifetimes before this lifetime. And the reason why things happen simultaneously, this is one reason, is we fractile. And so there can be a part of your soul that's frozen in time from a different lifetime that's still reliving that experience that's impacting you in this lifetime, even though that physical body has transitioned.
So alternate versions of me are affecting me in my life just as I'm affecting them in their alternate life?
Yeah, so I'll give an example that can maybe help you like wrap your head around it. So let's say you had the most amazing, loving parents. You had great relationships. They loved you. They supported you. They showed up for things. But you always have this fear of abandonment and you don't know why. Like you had a loving household. You're married. You didn't have any relationships where people abandoned you, but there's this fear of abandonment and you can't figure out where it's coming from. Chances are there's been something that happened in your soul's lineage, in your soul's path, where you were abandoned. Maybe your village was trampled and you were abandoned as a child and you had to figure it out. Or maybe in a previous lifetime, you had parents that abandoned you. I mean, there's many different reasons of why someone might feel abandoned. And so we can go back and we can look at either in the ancestral lineage in the Akashic Records or the soul lineage where that abandonment actually is coming from and where the root cause is coming from as well. And the reason why I said it's happening simultaneously is because there's a fragment of the soul is still reliving that experience from that previous lifetime on a different timeline.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of things I think in my life that I look back at, but I'm not going to get on the couch right now. I'll I'll ask more questions about what you know. What was it like for you the first time you accessed the Akashic Records? I mean, can you just walk us through? I mean, what was it like? What were your feelings and how did you feel afterwards? And what did you learn?
I felt like I was at home for the first
Really?
time.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I felt like I was at home. There was this sense of just belonging and an overwhelming sensation of love. And a lot of my clients through my Akashic Record program called Sacred Awakening, that's a similar experience that they'll say like when, and this is for someone going into their own records for the first time is what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Is there's this coming home feeling because you're just being showered with love and you're doing it for yourself too, because you're taking the initiative to ask questions and show up for yourself.
It sounds if you do it right, it could almost become addictive. People look at their phones all the time, right, to get updates on stuff or text message. Does it, and I know some people use it daily, some people use it a couple times a year. Is it something is and I'm sorry if it's a bad question, I could take this out, but
It's a great question.
Could it be addictive to some people where they constantly want to access it versus live their life?
So there's always opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Where something can be a really good tool that someone's using it in a manic way or using it in a way that's causing harm. So for me, I think that if I use them daily, I'm not using it from a place of victimhood or from a place of like, I don't feel secure in my being that I can't get these answers on my own. I use them from a place of empowerment, like where I'm either accessing the records while I'm doing interviews or I'm accessing the records while I'm working on my business and I'm getting guidance or I'm brainstorming or I'm writing or I'm channeling or I'm doing a healing. Now, what wouldn't be good is if you are solely depending your life on just that answer. And this is similar to giving your power away to a healer where you're
Okay.
patiently, like you're anxiously waiting their answer and what they say can make or break you. And that's simply just not true. What the records are here to do are empower you to recognize your wholeness and remember your wholeness. And so I think they can be addicting in a good way. And then from the flip side, they can be used in the wrong way, in the wrong hands as well. But I think that if with anything, it's really important to find balance with that. Just like I tell my students, like, it's not good to have your records open all day. Like, that's not a good thing to do. But accessing them throughout the day and closing them down is really important so you can stay grounded and rooted in this reality.
In a nutshell, then, about the Akashic Records, it's more like a mentor to help guide you to a positive outcome, but it doesn't foresee the future and tell you if you open this door, this will happen. If you open that door, that'll happen. It's more to inform you, just as like you go to college to learn what career you want to work. It's more to help keep you on the right path, but you are the ultimate decision maker. Is that accurate?
So that's a great question. So many different Akashic record practitioners use the records for different ways, different reasons. And so the way that I use it and the way that I teach my students is I use the records for assisting with the past, the present, and the future. Because sometimes people only use them to do past life regressions. And for me, that's going to get really heavy. Like if I'm only doing past life regressions, that means I'm constantly looking for a problem.
Yeah.
So I want to use them for the past to heal things from this lifetime and previous lifetime. I also want to use them in the present moment. Like I might be have a great opportunity and I want some support on like how to maneuver that opportunity, or if I'm not looking at something from the right perspective, or let's say I'm having a challenging time talking to my spouse and I want to have an alternative perspective on the situation, or I want to learn how to communicate my feelings without collapsing inward or without posturing or without freezing, depending on what style you have in communication. And then I can also look for future possibilities. Like I'm writing my book and I am outlining it and I'm asking for other options for the book itself. Now it's up to me to take action on some of the things that they're sharing, and they're all based on that moment in time. And there's an infinite number of factors that go into getting that thing to manifest. And I'll give you an example. I went and I decided I wanted to do yoga teacher training. I loved yoga. I knew that I wanted to speak, and I figured that that would assist me get over my fear of public speaking. And so I went into the records because I went and I did my yoga teacher training, but I did it privately and I didn't do it at a studio. And so it's hard to get a first-time yoga teaching job at a studio if you didn't practice there and you didn't teach and you didn't take your teacher training there. And so I went in the records and I said, hey, I want to get a yoga teacher training job at a studio. What do you suggest I do? And they said, here's this studio, and this studio. They gave me 3 studios. And one of the studios,
Wow.
they said, go talk to the owner, ask to observe the kids class, and then take it from there. And I go, okay. So I went and I went immediately. The other studios, I didn't. So the one studio, I didn't follow up at all. The other one, they suggested checking out a wellness studio. I did check that out and I did get that job. And then this other studio, I went and I didn't even have teaching kids on my radar, like not at all. But they suggested it. So I'm like, you know what? It's right down the road from my house. It's easy. Let me go check it out. And I used to practice there too. And so I went and I said, hey, can I observe the kids class? I just got certified in yoga with my 200-hour yoga teacher training. And the owner's like, absolutely, come back. We're going to actually be doing it. I think it was like a day or 2 later. I don't even remember because it was so long ago. But I went and observed it. And then 2 weeks later, he calls me and asks me if I want to co-teach the kids class.
Wow. Yeah, the reason I was kind of stunned by that, because you know why I used to think I've had a couple guests on Akashic Records, and I always thought it was more guidance. But yours is an example where they dropped like a Google Maps flag down here and here and here. But it was like really precise guidance, so I was a little surprised by that. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it'll be precise guidance. And I was just doing a couple group readings on a different show last week, and the host I was giving a little reading to, and they were suggesting that she goes and gets a Pilates teacher. And they specifically told me, make sure the teacher is blonde. The teacher that you're looking for is blonde. And she immediately replied, goes, oh, I was thinking that maybe my physical therapist could help me with that, but she's not blonde. So they're very intelligent in the way that they give guidance, and even the little things, the little nuances in the answers is really neat.
Well, this week she's not blonde. Next week when she comes back, she may have dyed her hair. So you have this on your website. I'd love to give a quick plug of your website, and this is one of the many courses that you provide. We talked about just giving a quick flavor, a little flavor of what the Akashic Records opening it and what it might be like. So do you mind doing that right now?
Absolutely. I would love to do it for you. So for any of your listeners, I'm going to give Robert a reading. If any of the information resonates with you, whatever piece of that is, that's for you, since we're doing this in a group setting. If something doesn't resonate with you, leave it behind. And then Robert, let me know, you can ask either a very specific question, or if there's just something that you're struggling with or wanting support with, you can formulate a question, or I can help you formulate a question. And we want it to be open-ended and not yes or no.
Okay. So let me just dreams that I have. Okay. Can I ask a question about dreams that I have?
Absolutely. I love dream
Okay, cool.
interpretation. So
I tend to have in dreams, probably in my second or third REM wave, I'll wake up after I wake up at 2 or something in the next dream or whatever. I find myself in two situations where people that are familiar, but I don't like and I'm not comfortable with. It's almost like another life, and I'm with people that I'm with, and I don't quite fit, and it's kind of uncomfortable. And the other thing I have in dreams is I have a hard time getting home from the city. I'll be a familiar city like Boston, but I have a hard time finding the right station or the right bus or whatever. And I spend a lot of the dream trying to get home. So those are two things I've had a lot in my adult life. And I'm just curious if there's any guidance based on that.
Okay. So one is, I'm going to talk about the station dream last. So the first dream where you wake up and then you're back and you're not liking the people you're around. It feels familiar, but it doesn't. Is that what you said?
Yeah, and it's different, and it's not the same place over. I'm a part of a group, like in high school when you don't fit in, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's like something but I'm an adult, and I'm with people. Could be a job, could be something, whatever. But man, it's just not a good existence, and I'm not happy in how I fit there. So yeah, that's the gist of that one.
Okay. And then it's always the same feeling where you just don't feel like you belong.
And I don't like the people.
And you don't like the people. Okay, great. I do have a
Yeah.
question I'm being guided to ask you. When was the last time you had that dream?
I can't say exactly, but I would say, within 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Okay, great. So, couple things. This is a realm dream, meaning your soul is tapping into a different realm and you're not meant to be there.
Okay.
Okay. So to stop this, what you're going to say to your consciousness before you go to bed is, we are only staying in the realms we are meant to be in.
Okay.
And then you're going to inhale and you're going to close out any loops to any realms that you're not supposed to be in. And you're just breathe and you're just imagine like those doors, those connections are fading away as you're breathing.
Got it. Yep.
And so because you're super connected, just like your daughter is super connected, and you come from a line of seers, they're saying. Have you ever been told that before?
No, I did the documentary Afraid of Nothing, and that's because the thought behind the title was half the world is afraid that nothing, that there'll be nothing when they die, and the other half believes that there's nothing to fear, right? So I did a documentary, and I mostly my mother passed of dementia. My mother passed of dementia about 12 years ago,
Sorry.
and when she passed, she didn't recognize me. So I felt like, man, what is this world? If your mom, she doesn't even know you, and you lose that connection.
Yeah.
Does anything mean anything? And so I started looking for a connection to that with the paranormal world, which was my documentary, and it's now this kind of podcast, and just trying to talk to people that see things that I don't. So,
Yeah,
I've always thought that I had tunnel vision, Amy. I've thought that I've been around others who have had the ability a lot, but I felt that I've been more of a tunnel vision type person.
No, you actually have, you receive a lot in dreams. Like you receive a lot through the work that you're doing in your sleep. And one of the things that would be really helpful for you is to have a dream journal. They're not calling it a journal. They're calling it a dream documentary.
Okay. All right.
Meaning if you don't want to journal it, you can just do a quick voice memo where it does a transcription for you, because that will assist you in having the document of it. And then you can read through the transcripts, like, the otter ad, it will actually give you like a summary of the transcript itself.
Yeah.
And so by doing that first thing in the morning, you're going to start seeing patterns. And they're really wanting you to emphasize seeing patterns, seeing, because you come from a line of seers, and that's where some of your daughter gets her gifts, and she gets them from other places as well. She's crazy galactic in such a good way.
Yeah.
But they're saying that the dream work that you do is important. So this is why sometimes you find yourself in places you're not supposed to be in. And that's that first dream is one of them, is you're finding yourself in spaces you're not supposed to be. And it's kind of like when a show has, I'll give you an example, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? The mom in the show was one actress, and then partway to the show, they switched out that actress with a different actress. And it just seems different. Like, they're different actors. They don't look the same, but they're playing that role. And so it just feels off.
Yeah.
So they're saying, like, when there's a feeling of that, even if you wake up in the middle of the night and it's just like, it feels off, just go, okay, I'm gathering my energy. I'm closing those spaces out. And it's as simple as that for that particular one. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Could you define seer? I mean, I think I know what it is, but it's like, one of those words like big data or so, it's people have different, what do you mean by seer, or what do they mean by seer?
So you're able to see beyond, and it doesn't mean clairvoyance per se. And clairvoyance can be one of the senses that you're using, but they're in the seer, in the definition that they're wanting me to describe it to you, it's seeing beyond the veil, connecting to what is outside of this realm.
Okay. Got it. Yep.
And then the other one, give me a little brief description again of that one.
So it's about having a hard time getting home.
Okay, yes,
It's
perfect.
like going to the city, and sometimes it could be a familiar city like Boston, and usually it mostly is. But there's all these different T stations you have to connect here or there, the green line, the red line, or whatever. It seems like I struggle with that, and there's some anxiety about getting back. So yeah.
Yeah. So what are you do? So this is a question that you can answer, and you can also sit with. What are you doing that is going against what you want to be doing? Let me say it slightly different. There is a part of you that wants to come back to remembering who you are, this coming home feeling, but you're taking the wrong streets. You're taking the wrong routes. And so what they're saying, like, whenever you have that particular dream where it's like you want to get home, but you're not there, you want to stop and analyze what's going on in that particular chapter that you're in, and ask yourself, how are you taking the long way around? Because there's a shorter route for you to take that will get you directly to where you want to go. But there's something about the resistance to actually having the direct path versus the long way around, because you're used to having it as a struggle versus easy.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the thing that you had when you were stuck. Like I'm an older parent now. I'm 62, and I feel like I'm gonna have to keep working until I'm 70 and stuff that I may not love or like doing, and I have to do it because I have child support, I have a mortgage, I have kids that are getting ready to go to college, and then I feel like I can't even like save for myself. I feel like I have to kind of provide for others. Now, it makes me sound like really noble when I probably am self-serving a lot too. Who knows? But I'm just saying that's where I feel stuck. I'm stuck where a lot of my friends, like I was in a fraternity in college and I went to homecoming, they're retired and they're free and they're traveling and they're going all over the
And
place.
they have grandkids and
Yeah, and I'm like, no way. And I'm like saying no to everything because I can't afford to do that. I can't do that. That's a waste, or I can't do this. And so I find myself closing myself in, and other people I see doing things. So it's not like the Facebook, regret where you see other people's doing stuff. But I do feel like at this point, I have to kind of keep myself on a certain level to meet my obligations. And I do feel maybe it's the interpretation that I'm having a hard time getting back to me. This podcast is one way I do it, but who knows,
Yeah, so part of what they're saying, what the guardians are saying, is that it's important for you to reevaluate what obligation means.
Hmm. God, that's yeah. It's that'd be a tough one, but yeah,
Because it's old school. Like your obligation thought process is old school.
definitely, yeah, yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with old school, but you're hurting yourself.
yeah. So yeah, so those are the two things, and then that'll be a tough one to deal with, and that'll be a tough one to break.
What they're saying is that if you stop and pause when you have that dream and reevaluate what you're doing, and it will be clear, like, because there's going to be things that are happening that week when something occurs where you'll be able to identify like what's going on and how am I taking the long way around, and then it will be interesting to see and for you to ask yourself, what would be the easiest way to do it? And how can I give myself permission to feel like I'm worthy of actually having ease?
Mm. I think a lot of people have that issue, even with like money. Like they don't get money, and we'll
Yeah.
talk about manifesting next, I guess. So yeah, that's interesting. Do the Akashic records, when you reach them, do they just wait for a question, or do they say, "I wish you would ask this," or "We're also getting this beyond what he asked"? Do they have that too? Or
So yes and no. So what I mean by that is the guardians will share information that you are ready for.
mm,
And they're never going to share something you're not ready for. Sometimes there may be some small resistance or major resistance to receiving it, but that plants the seed for change. And then we want to also be open ended with our questions too, where it's like, I'll go in and I'll be like, tell me something I don't know. Tell me something that would serve my highest good for me to actually
huh.
ask. And sometimes it's not even on my radar to even ask, where it's like not even in my hemisphere of thinking, and it's really neat. Or when you leave it open ended like that, it's helpful for like getting something that you wouldn't expect.
May I ask one more quick question,
Of
or
course.
okay? So the last one would be: am I supposed to be doing this podcast, and am I helping people?
Absolutely, and absolutely, that's going to be a yes, like yes, no question. So I'm going to expand upon it. Part of the reason why this podcast was birthed from you is there's this soul searching within you that wants to go deeper into where you're going next on your spiritual path and guidance.
Hmm.
And part of this podcast is helping you open up to that. And so do you ever take notes, or do you ever like recap on like, oh, that was a great topic, like I really liked that? Or do you have like any like specific like episodes of where like that was earth shattering for me?
What I do is I'll do, like, when I hit 100 episodes, I'll do the best of the first 50 and the best of the next 50, or things like that, where I remember episodes that were impactful. That's as close as I get to that, I guess.
Perfect. So what they're saying is like, if you can kind of do some of a review, it will help you go in an even deeper direction of where you're going, where it assists you on a deeper level as well. Because there's something that wants to be birthed from you from this experience onto the next that you can monetize from it. And it can be and they're saying semi-retirement plan.
Boy, would that be good? Because I'm really bad. I've made movies and I've made podcasts, and I think I do them well, but I've never been able to learn to monetize stuff very well. So that's on
You
the
have
list, I
a
guess.
fantastic voice, and you're great at asking questions. And so you just gotta come up with the map for monetizing. And for anybody that's listening to this, anything that's resonating with you, take it. Anything that doesn't, but I'm gonna like kind of generalize that monetization. Everybody is meant to monetize in their genius zone. And so where's your genius zone light, and how can you monetize on that? Because you're meant to be doing things that are on purpose and that bring you joy. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's your I'm going to put this in quotation because everybody says follow your passion. It's beyond that. It's what brings you joy, and that it allows you to keep evolving with you.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I want to respect your time too. I would like to have like maybe 10 or 12 more minutes if that's okay. I have a
Of
couple other
course.
things I'd love to talk to you about, Amy. And thank you so much. I appreciate that. What I want to do is pause here and quickly give people your website and tell them, how can they join a class or get a certificate or whatever on the Akashic Records.
Yeah, so you can go to theamyrobeson.com. That's TheAmyRobeson.com. And we have lots of free stuff. Like if you go to theamyrobeson.com/free, we have events, live shows that I do. We have a 10-day free masterclass series coming up that's called the Soul Evolution Masterclass Series, where we do an ancestral Akashic record healing, a soul lineage Akashic record healing, a money Akashic record healing. We talk about manifesting in the Akashic records and all sorts of different things. And it's a 10-day, it's absolutely free. It's online. So if you're interested in that, you can go to my website and sign up for it. And if you can't catch the live, you can catch the replay, but just check it out. We got healings, meditations, all that stuff.
That sounds great. I mean, one thing you hear a lot of, and that you do, would they talk about manifesting abundance? Can you talk about that a little bit and how that's worked for you and how you can help people do that through meditation or whatever would help get them vibrating on the right frequency?
Yeah. So one, I use the records, and two, like I believe that when you take time to get curious about yourself, you learn new things. And when you learn new things, you can shift perception around things that are holding you back, because we have old identities that hold us back. For manifesting, sometimes you can be doing everything right. You're like, I'm showing up, I'm taking action, but it's not working. And the reason why it's not working is because there's something going on in your ancestral lineage or your soul lineage. And that's what we use the records for, to look at and to heal and to clear.
You're a very positive person, light energy, things like that. But I noticed on your list of talking points, you also do something called navigating shadows, which is shadow work. Not to dip our toes too deep into darkness, but can you talk a little bit about that in some cases where people have come to you?
Yeah.
I just have to tell you, I don't know if you get the same thing on your podcast. I don't very often get like, hey, great show type of messages. There'll be people that are like going through some paranormal trauma and they're wondering if I can help. And I'll be like, well, no, that there's this episode and you can contact this guest. I'm just kind of the podcast guy. I'm not really the healer.
Yeah.
So I'll get messages and I'll once in a while get an evil message too. So I'm curious what you, in terms of your shadow work, what you do.
So we're both light and dark. And a shadow is an aspect of your being that was birthed out of necessity to keep you safe. And you can fill in the blank. And so I'll give overworking as an example as a shadow. You can have a shadow that just keeps driving you to work yourself to death, to burnout. And it's because there's a reason why that shadow was birthed out of necessity to keep you safe in the past. Now, that shadow is not going to get you to where you want to go in the future and in the present moment, because it's an outdated belief system. It's an outdated patterning in the nervous system. And so when we uncover a shadow, we can see how it's influencing you, how it's making you behave, how it's making you think, and then we lovingly let it die. And these are parts of us that are a part of our identity that keep us in a particular frequency and keep us stuck in a particular reality. And in order to get to where you want to go next, you have to do the deep work. And we've entered the age of Aquarius, and the age of Aquarius is about looking at the shadow so that you can live your best life.
It's interesting. I heard, is it Debbie? Oh God, what was her last name?
Dashinger?
Yeah. On one of her shows, she talked about 2025 as a year of endings, but it's a good thing.
Yes.
And I was curious about your thoughts about 2025 and what your thoughts. And many times in my life, I've thought, wow, and all this existence of all these points of time is so weird. I'm here right now, because it seems like a miracle, right?
Right.
am I going to witness something profound? Am I here for a reason? And then all this weird stuff is happening recently, So I'm curious what you think about 2025. I think Debbie on a podcast mentioned about the number 9 and the ending, which can also mean new births or things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm curious about your thoughts of this year.
So, one, I think the same thing, Robert, where it's like, what an amazing time to be living.
Yeah.
Because we are in such an advanced technology. Like, we're seeing the technology like ramp up very quickly. And it's crazy to think like what's happened in the last 10 years, what's that going to look like 10 years from now? Like,
Right. Yeah.
It's insane. So with that being said, we chose to come here. And so for 2025, this is a numerology year of 9. So it's all about renewal, transformation, bringing things into completion, reflecting on the past, looking at what's no longer serving you, giving yourself permission to have a new beginning as well. Because sometimes we can't give ourselves permission to have a new beginning until we actually looked at the things from the past that are holding us back.
Now, you've already done that. Does that apply to you, or are you constantly reinventing?
That's a great question. I think that it's where are you at right now in your season of life? We go through challenges, and I think the human experience is a messy, beautiful, chaotic masterpiece because we didn't come here to have everything perfect. We came here to experience challenges. And those challenges are the things that allow us to grow. If it was only butterflies and rainbows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, first off, it would be boring.
Yeah.
Second off, we wouldn't be evolving to where we want to go and where we want to grow. And part of our soul's experience is to experience the humanness of feelings and master feelings, because part of feeling is about giving yourself permission to feel the actual feeling that's attached to whatever experience that you're experiencing, and not shove it down, not pretend like it's not there, but actually acknowledge it and feel it so that you can release it. And what gets people into trouble is when they don't give themselves permission to feel, or they spiral, or they go in avoidance, or they collapse, or they posture, or they freeze. And so when we give ourselves permission to actually be in the experience, it's super profound.
Yeah, beyond like being present, with all the deception around us, even stuff when we grow up as kids, it's like you're born and it's Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and all this stuff, and then reality hits you. I almost feel like the more I age, the biggest reason we're here is to discover the truth. And ultimately, the afterlife, I guess, is the ultimate truth.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about finding the truth or seeking the truth? And maybe that's different for each person, but I think we all look for the truth, and it's so hard to find.
Yeah, I think that there's no one way to find the truth. I think that we are all so unique, and I'm a truth seeker. Like, I want to know the truth. I want to study. I want to look at things. I want to also reevaluate. Is that true for me now? Because what was true for me 10 years ago might not be true for me now. And you can outgrow truths, because that truth might have got you to that point. You might have new information that it's no longer true for you, or you've outgrown it. And then the other thing about it too is you're allowed to change your mind. I think that sometimes people get stuck because they've buried their head in the sand, and they're like, well, I said this once, and this is just the way it has to be. And that's just, you're allowed to change your mind. Just like scientists change their mind about things all the time once they got more data. And sometimes we just need more data in order to understand, and we have to live certain experiences. And for me, I think that truth seeking is such a fun thing to explore. And then it also assists you in evolving, because I was just talking to a friend of mine today, and we were talking about childhood things. And I brought up a story from my childhood, and I go, that's the way I perceived it when I was younger. I'm curious if that's still true. And so I think I need to ask my sister about that, because I remember us talking about this a lot, and this was what the truth was, but I could be, my mind does lie to me. My mind lies to me all the time. So is that the truth? And how do I perceive it now as an adult?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is the same. I experience a lot of people who have ghost stories, but they don't quite know it's a ghost story. And then they think back at it and realize that might have been not a ghost story, but a
Yeah.
weird experience, that's kind of, they try to rationalize away with their own truth. So, yeah, that's all around us. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about crystalline energy as the direct source for manifestation and creativity. I know that's something that you really help people with a lot in their spiritual evolution. So, what is crystalline energy and how do we tap into it?
So, to make it really simple, people love tangible crystals
Mm,
that you can buy at a crystal shop or
yeah.
online.
Yep.
That is a great way to start connecting with the crystalline energy. You don't have to actually have tangible crystals to connect with it because we're multidimensional and they're all around us and we're moving from carbon-based beings to crystalline beings. And
Mm.
so if you want to just work with crystals, you can either take a screenshot on your phone and look at them, or you can purchase some and you can meditate with them or make crystal grids or hold them or place them on your body. The main thing is that we're working with the crystalline energy because they have all the different elements, just like we have all the different elements in us. So earth, air, fire, wind, water, ether. And because they are made up of those elements, and as are we, they work with the elements in our body to clean out, to attract, to repel, and assist us in, and then you can fill in the blank because each different type of crystalline energy is its mastery in itself. So some crystals are great for working with the emotional body, while others are really great with helping with grounding, while others are really great with connecting with spirit, or work as shaman stones, or work as Akashic Records stones, or work for assisting in manifesting money or dreams or support and healing. There's so many different ways that we can work with the crystalline energy. And I love working with the crystalline energy so much is that's how I teach my students how to open their Akashic Records is we work with the crystalline energy in a simple prayer to open their records.
Do you have a favorite crystal?
Oh, I have many, many, many favorite crystals. But the crystal that I'm loving on right now is ocean jasper.
Really? Okay. Tourmaline, is that a crystal? I'm trying to think. For some reason,
Yeah,
that came to mind.
there's black tourmaline, watermelon tourmaline,
All
green
right. So
tourmaline.
that came to my
blue
mind right now. I
tourmaline.
don't know why, but all right, cool. Black tourmaline is what I'm thinking. What's black tourmaline for?
Black tourmaline is a fantastic crystal. That's probably one of my top 5 crystalline energies I use a lot. And it's great for clearing EMF. So I have it by all of our TVs. I have it by all of our computers. It's
Okay.
a fantastic stone for clearing and grounding. Do you have any of it?
I must have somewhere. I remember with my girls, I went, there's a place you get a bunch of crystals and we got it. I have a couple in my car and I forget what they are for, but I keep them in my car. I'm wondering if I should put a couple under my pillow at night,
You
have these
definitely
dreams.
can. What it does is it dispels fears.
Yeah.
It's also a protection stone. It is also one that will ward off psychic attacks. It helps bring a sense of calm and relaxation. It can bring good luck. It can also help increase your attitude. So if you've been just having a bad day, having that crystal can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And then on a physical level, it can help with detoxing. It can help with reducing inflammation. It can help with promoting restful sleep. So I love that you're wanting to use that for underneath your pillow for sleeping.
Well, it's going to be on my list this weekend then. All right, cool. Amy, thank you so much. We could keep going on, and I appreciate your time. I know you're super busy, and I appreciate you carving out some time with me tonight. One more time, I'll certainly have it in the show notes, but end by telling us again where to find you, talk about your podcast one more time, and anything coming up new, any event or anything that you want to promote.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks you for having me. This was a lot of fun. You can find me at theamyrobeson.com. That's TheAmyRobeson.com. And we have all sorts of different things on there. Like I said, we have a Soul Evolution Masterclass series coming up, which is a 10-day event. It's online. You can't catch the lives. You can catch the replays. That's happening February 17th. And then we also have other free things. So if you're listening to this outside of those dates, we have something always going on. So And then you can check out our podcast. It's Awakening with Amy Robeson. We also have a Facebook group that's a really big Facebook group that my students will give free Akashic Record readings in there. And then I'll also do rapid fire readings and group readings in there as well. So if you're interested, check it out.
Sounds great. What about, do you have something going on at Joshua Tree, like some 3-day event?
I do.
Let's close with that. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, it's an intimate retreat. I host 2 retreats a year. Like we host a big one for our Akashic Records students, and that's going to happen this September. And then for Joshua Tree, this is an intimate retreat. So there's going to be about 15 of us that are going to be there. We get to all be in the same house together, and everybody gets a love seat where they get coaching and get guidance from the guardians. And we have a pool, a labyrinth, a fire pit. Like it's going to be really cool. We're going to do lots of ceremonies and healings, and it's a 3-day in-person retreat.
Wow. Have you ever been to Lilydale in New York?
I haven't.
You should.
Yeah, I definitely want to. One of my friends, she always talks about it, and we went to New Smyrna Beach a couple of years ago for our big Sacred Awakening retreat, and they have a smaller Lilydale community outside of New Smyrna Beach that we went and checked out, and it was really cool.
Yeah, I think you'd like it a lot. I did like 3 podcast episodes on that. I've been there a couple times, and they have a fairy garden or a fairy trail there. So just, I know that's another thing that you kind of talk about, angels and fairies and garden animals and stuff. So I think you would find it quite peaceful.
Yeah, I would love it. I think that's definitely on my bucket list.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate it. I hope people do check out your website and your services. I think you did a great reading for me tonight. It gave me some things to think about, and I'll be out buying some black tourmaline this weekend to ground myself a little more. So thank you for all your insights and advice.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
You've been listening to the Afraid of Nothing podcast. Please subscribe and like us on Facebook. Until next time, stay scared.
Hey, you're still here? Great. Then why not listen to another episode? Visit afraidofnothingpodcast.com to peruse all the shows. That's afraidofnothingpodcast.com. And while you're there, click the coffee cup icon to buy me a coffee and leave a review. I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming episode, and the world will know how swell you are.